Hello, welcome to the Alone Show. I'm your host, John May Alone. In this episode, don't have any regulars because reasons, I guess. As for our guest, he's from Brisbane, Australia. He manages the world's first diversified crypto mutual fund since 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Jeremy Britton.
Thanks, Jamie. Great to be here.
You're welcome. So, how's life?
Life is sweet. It's springtime here in Australia. So, time to put away the jumpers and put on the t-shirts, get out amongst nature. Life's good.
All right, very good. And have you been up to much recently?
Oh, mate, it's been so exciting. In the crypto world, we've been flying solo for a long time as the world's first crypto mutual fund, trying to make it easy for people to get into crypto. And for the first 3 years, we had no competitors at all. So we just benched ourselves against Bitcoin. We have managed to outperform Bitcoin for the last 6 or 7 years in a row. But that's all we could measure ourselves against because there was no competitors. And a couple of years ago, we got some competitors into the market. There was 2 or 3 fund managers who came in. Sadly, they were not very good. One of them had 43% of their money invested in FTX before FTX went broke. And so they closed down. But, in the last couple of weeks, we've got BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK Investments, Wisdom Tree, and a whole bunch of major financial players coming into the market. So it's actually a very exciting time right now.
Ah, very nice. So what inspired you to set up this mutual crypto diversified fund of some sort?
Now, my career is like when I was 19, I started as a financial planner. So it was my first sort of real job. And I would create portfolios for clients and say, hey, you go shopping at this grocery store, so we should get some stock in that. And you fly with this airline, so we should get some stock in that. And I would specialize in US and Australian stocks and shares. But obviously, I couldn't be an expert on China or India or Taiwan. So that's where we'd use mutual funds. And there was a person who lived in Taiwan who knew all the best stocks and shares to buy. So they would have mutual funds and we'd invest for a bit of diversification into other areas. Because as you know, with stocks and shares, when one thing goes down, something else goes up, and you've got to have a balance in there. So I was usually creating these portfolios for clients with a mix of direct stocks and shares, as well as some mutual funds. And found over time that most people didn't really care that much about the individual stocks and shares as long as they were making a decent amount of money. And we found 85% in Australia, 85% of people just preferred to invest through a mutual fund rather than picking their own stocks and shares. And in the States, it was 95%. So we sort of got used to doing that, diversifying through different mutual funds. And when I was introduced to cryptocurrency, I sort of look at it and went, oh, this is basically like a little tiny stock market. You've got Bitcoin that does this, you've got Ethereum that does this, and you've got these other coins that work on different projects. And because I understood the stock market, that's where I cut my teeth. I could do very, very well investing in crypto. And the returns I'd make in crypto in a year or in a month were more than the returns I'd make in stocks and shares, sometimes in 3 or 4 years. So it was great. And I started talking to a few of my friends who are financial advisors and a few of my friends and family about it. And they were like, oh, that's great. Can you teach me how to do that? And so I would teach them how to do it. But after a while, they'd say, oh, that's fun, but I've got no time for it. I'm busy with my business. I've got work. I've got children. I've got whatever responsibilities. And so I thought, well, we should create a mutual fund so people can invest who don't have the time or the inclination to learn how to do it themselves, because that's what we've always done with the stock market. And it's interesting because obviously, you've got Vanguard funds and BlackRock funds and this sort of stuff, and they're usually country specific or industry specific. So they'll be tech stocks, or they'll be, the NASDAQ index or the S&P 500. So it was a challenge for us because we said, look, crypto is worldwide. We've got to have a structure that's truly international. And no one had ever done that before. So we had a lot of meetings with accountants and financial planners and lawyers saying, we need to set up a structure for a mutual fund that's international, that can operate in any country, any jurisdiction, 24 hours a day. And the guys that we were speaking to, the financial experts, the tax experts, the legal experts, saying, why the hell would you want to do something so complicated? And we said, oh, because we want to invest in crypto. And they became our first customers, the financial planners and accountants and the lawyers even saying, oh yeah, I'll put a few $1,000s in that. So we ran it for 2 years just as a trial with about 6 of us invested in there. And we said, we'll test this. If it goes well, we'll tell the general public about it. If it doesn't go well, we'll hide it under a mat and pretend we never did it. And then we've got all these guys sitting around the table, and one of them said, okay, we've got this fund, we've finally ironed out all the kinks in it and made it a truly international thing that can hold crypto on behalf of others. But what are we going to call it? We need a name. We need a logo. And I'm like, looking around at the other faces. There's not one creative person in the room. There was no marketing person. We're all sort of tech boffins and legal boffins and, financial planning geeks. And then the dog walked into the room. We've got 2 little Boston Terriers. So I just went, hey, that head would make a good logo. And we called it Boston Trading Company. So that's where that started. And yeah, after 2 years, we'd managed to outperform Bitcoin by a big margin. So we launched it to the public in January 2018. And been going to the public ever since. We're in 61 countries now. So it's quite widespread.
Oh my gosh, 61 countries. That's mad.
And we want to get more. So wherever you're listening, anywhere around the world, get in touch.
All right. Yes. Sounds good. Very good. And in a few years' time, where do you see the success of your mutual fund going?
Oh, hopefully making billions of dollars for all of our investors. I think back well before your and my time, because we're just babies. But in the 50s and 60s and 70s, it was only the very, very wealthy people who could afford to invest in stocks and shares, because you needed to buy a minimum of $10,000 worth of stock in one company. And then you had to have other companies because, what if the airline went down and something else went up? You need to diversify. So it was only the very wealthy people who could afford to invest in stocks and shares. And then in 1971, Jack Bogle came out and said, I want to make investing for everyone. And I want to make a mutual fund where people can just throw in like $5,000 or $10,000 and we'll buy them a well-balanced portfolio of stocks and shares. And of course, all the wealthy people in power went, oh, that'll never work. Poor people don't want to buy stocks and shares. That's ridiculous. And in the first year, I think he bought in like, $20,000. And the second year, he might have bought in about $50,000. But, 3 or 4 years down the track, people went, hey, this is actually good. I can invest where the rich and powerful invest for the first time. And that's what we're doing. We're basically democratizing crypto to make it easy for everyone. And if we have half the success of the Vanguards and the BlackRocks and the Fidelities have enjoyed over the last 50 years, then we'll be very happy.
Okay, that's cool. Now, speaking of the BlackRocks, the Vanguards, the Fidelities, and so on, have you ever thought of collaborating with other mutual funds to consolidate and have some sort of power amongst the stock markets and other businesses around the world to I don't know, shift power in some way and influence the world?
Oh God, that's like taking over the world sort of stuff.
Oh yes.
I'm not a Bond villain. Don't have any aspirations to do anything like that. Control the world, but it really is about helping people to make investing easy and simple. Most people these days, when you go to work, your boss pays into a 401k or a superannuation or some sort of retirement fund for you. And 9 times out of 10, you don't look at it. You get the statement at the end of the year and go, oh, it's gone up or it's gone down. And that's what we want to have for people, is something that they don't need to look at on a daily basis. They don't need to check the prices. They just need to let the experts do their job and benefit from AI, benefit from cryptocurrency. Most people don't understand how money works. They don't understand how the stock market works. They don't understand how computers work or how cars work. But you're still happy to use these things. I've got no idea how my car works. That's why I have a mechanic, but I'm happy to get in and drive it around. So being able to make money out of these things without taking the time to understand them and tinker with them keeps it simple for everybody. And again, BlackRock wasn't the first. Vanguard invented the first mutual fund in 1971. And BlackRock came along in the 80s and then, yeah, we might do that too. And now, of course, there's tens of thousands of mutual funds all around the world, and BlackRock's worth $10 trillion. So, if we got to have a couple of $1 trillion, that might be nice. I'm not saying I would become a Bond villain, but, you could buy an island with a volcano on it, underground lair, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Who knows? Who knows what's on the cards for 5 years down the track, mate?
Yeah, it's just a shrouded mystery. So, if someone written a book about you, what do you think its title would be?
Great question. I'd have to come up with a decent title by sitting down and brainstorming, but it'd be something along the lines of "Don't tell me what I can't do." I mean, as I say, starting in financial planning when I was 19 years old, there wasn't very many people who actually did that. Most of the guys are sort of in their 50s and 60s. And obviously, starting a crypto mutual fund from scratch when no one in the world had ever done that before. There's lots of things I sort of look at and go, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could do this? No one's ever done it before. There's no clear path. There's no precedent for it. But let's give it a whirl, see what happens.
Okay, cool. If you could create your own job title, what would it be?
Wow. I think it would be like executive chairperson of simplifying the complex. That's what I've always done with stocks and shares. It's a complex market, and there's lots of macroeconomic and political factors that interplay with there. My parents are both school teachers, so I've got this inherent gift of taking a complex thing and making it simple so people can understand it. And that's what I've always done with stocks and shares for 20 or 30 years. And that's what I've been doing with crypto for the last 7 years. Simplify the complex.
Sweet. Do you like spicy food?
I do like spicy food, but it doesn't like me.
Oh.
There's embarrassing noises that come out of the body after I have chili and garlic and onion and that sort of stuff. So I got a couple of pizzas last night. I had a friend come over and my partner, and I made sure I ordered the pizza without the jalapenos and without the onions. Much as I love them, it just wasn't worth it to be in public.
Oh yes, of course. That makes sense.
If I'm home alone, sure, absolutely.
Fair enough, yeah. In what situations do you wish you could throw down a smoke bomb and just vanish into thin air?
Oh, so many times, mate. So many times. you meet someone and they start a discussion and it just goes down a very dark path. I've got friends of mine who I no longer talk to very much because they got involved with the QAnon conspiracy theory stuff, and that's all they want to talk about. They want to talk about how Trump was the greatest president of all time, and the COVID conspiracies and 5G's giving people cancer and that sort of stuff. And I'm just like, you know what? Neither of us are scientists. Yeah. None of us have any proof or any evidence of any of this sort of stuff. So I just want to throw a smoke bomb, disappear, and not have the discussion. I mean, it's outside of my qualifications to have that discussion. So none of us really know, I think, all of the answers to everything. And you may as well start talking to me about quantum theory or particle physics. And like, yeah, I just need to go and get a drink and disappear for a while.
Yes,
I'm good at one thing. I make money for people. That's what I do.
Yeah, indeed. What's your favorite season?
Oh, great question. Probably be this time, like springtime, late spring leading into summer, where it's warm, it's sunny. You can go for a walk with the puppies. There's plenty of greenery all around. Nature's starting to come alive, but not too hot. Middle of summer is just too hot when you just want to hide inside in the aircon. But that's the kind of weather where you get out in shorts and t-shirts and have a walk around, and you're comfortable outside doing the gardening or walking the puppies or meeting up with friends without sort of sweltering. So I lived in Bali for a couple of years, and Bali's pretty well, like it's 30 degrees and hot in the summer, and 30 degrees and wet in the winter, and that was kind of nice.
Ah, very good. What has taken you the longest to get good or decent at?
Oh, geez. I think it's always a balancing act, mate. Because if you commit too hard to something, then you can go sort of too far one way. I was sort of very much into weight training and bodybuilding in my teens, and I got super big and super buff. And some of those guys, like they were bigger than me, the guys I was training with, where they can't actually scratch their back because their arms and their shoulders are too big to bend. And obviously you don't want to go too far the other way where you just don't work out at all, and then you get sort of, unhealthy and too big the other way. I think that's probably a good metaphor for life. You could spend all your time in front of the computer studying cryptocurrencies and things like that, but I like to step out at 4:00 in the afternoon, take the puppies for a walk down to the park, and spend time in nature, because you got to balance out left and right hemispheres. You got to balance your intellectual activities with your physical activities, and sometimes you just got to go and see a movie or a play or something like that. And always going both sides of the line, tracking like a ship rather than straight ahead like a train.
All right then, very good. What is something that most people consider to be a luxury, but you don't think you could live without?
Oh, geez. I'm just sitting here. I'm sipping on my green tea this morning, and I'm looking at the kettle. I've got a kettle that goes, 60 degrees, 70 degrees, 80 degrees, up to 100. For those people who are in the US, 100 is boiling point for Celsius. But the perfect temperature to serve green tea at is 80 degrees. So I must have a kettle that serves the tea at the right temperature, because if it's too hot, it burns it, it goes bitter, it's horrible. So that's probably one little thing, having the fancy kettle. I'm a pretty simple guy. I don't need a lot of luxuries in my life. I mean, I have a lot of luxuries, but I can live without them, except for the green tea. That's got to be there.
Very good. What is something popular now, but in 5 years, everyone will look back on it and be embarrassed that you liked it?
Gee, testing the limits of my futurism. That's a great question. I'm not sure. It's interesting. Like, AI was the big exciting buzzword a few months ago, and it's changing a lot of industries. But I don't think it's maybe the metaverse. The metaverse is one of those things that came out and everyone thought it was going to be huge and amazing, and we're going to spend all this time in the metaverse, and then it's sort of quietly died. So anybody who went out and bought $3,000 headsets and things like that, maybe they're going to be embarrassed and stick them in the back of the cupboard with their Furbies.
Nice. Pretty good.
Hopefully you guys understand what a Furby is.
Oh, yes. I know what a Furby is, but I've heard way too much about them that are used for malicious and explicit purposes. So let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, Furbies, Tamagotchis, all those things that were big in the 90s and have disappeared now.
Oh yes, that vanished into thin air.
Mm.
Would you ever try space tourism?
I did see a clip on YouTube. I think it was Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons, who did the zero gravity, but it was in a plane. Like they have a cargo plane that goes up and then drops very, very quickly and does zero gravity. I'm not sure about actually going into space, like where you'd require oxygen and a space suit and pooping into a bag. I think zero gravity would be fun to try. I've tried skydiving, which is also a bit of fun, an adrenaline rush followed by a peaceful experience as you float down. But yeah, probably not into space. Yeah, I don't want to be anywhere that I can't breathe, and if something goes wrong, you just die.
Okay. I can see that. What's a common misconception people have about you?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to know people who don't know much about me to know what their misconceptions are. I guess there's a few people who I know casually, and when I see them, they're going, "Oh, how's the crypto markets going?" and this sort of stuff, because they think that's all I spend my time doing. But it's like, whatever you do for a job, whatever you do for 7 or 8 hours a day is not necessarily who you are, and not necessarily what you do for fun. So there's probably a misconception that I'm always working because the markets are always open. But if you do your research and you buy well, you don't need to watch the markets all day, every day. I mean, we did our research on a few projects that came out very early on. We got into Solana, we got into Polygon, and a few of these coins. And, we bought them for like 3 cents or 30 cents or something like that. I can't quite remember right now. And, for 12 months, they just sat flat and did nothing. And, we'd check them every other day and say, oh, yeah, we still believe in the project. We're not going to sell out of it. And then all of a sudden something happens in the market, and we made over 10,000% as these coins shot up from 30 cents to several $100s. And we go, oh, good. Finally, people have realized that these projects are good. And that's when we rebalance. You sell some down, take your profits and redistribute it, because in a diversified portfolio, you put 1% in a little untested something, and if you lose 1%, it doesn't matter. So yes, we did put 1 or 2% into FTX and we lost it. It doesn't matter. We also put 1 or 2% into Matic and into Solana and into some of these other things. And when that boomed and it suddenly became 15% of the portfolio, we sort of look at it and go, oh, well, if we lose 1%, we don't really care because we make it up on the others. But if we lose 15%, that's a big hit. So that's when we sell that down and say, okay, we might sell half of those off and rebalance into some other areas. But you're certainly not buying and selling all day, every day. Like day traders do that in the stock market. The stock market's open for 6 hours a day. That's okay to be a day trader in the stock market. But when crypto's open 24 hours a day, you really can't be day trading it. I've tried that. I did that during the pandemic because I didn't have a lot going on. And for 12 months, I was day trading crypto all day, every day. And after thousands and thousands of trades, I actually did the math and went, you know what? I actually made more money in that 12 months from researching and buying and holding and understanding the projects, made more money from that than I did from doing all these trades and flips and following the charts and things like that. So understanding the investment, then you can relax a little bit. You can take some time off. You can go away for the weekend and not have to watch the markets like some people do.
Ah, I can see that. That makes a lot of sense.
You got to have time for yourself, mate.
Yeah, of course. How much time do you spend on the internet?
Yeah, work's probably 4 or 5 hours a day. If you're counting the internet as a whole thing, then yeah, I might spend a bit of time on YouTube or Netflix or something like that. But it's pretty well everything is connected to the internet these days. You can't open a fridge without it sending a message that you're low on milk or whatever. My washing machine sends a message to my mobile phone saying, yeah, it's time to clean out the filter or it's time to hang the washing out or something like that. But yeah, probably 4 or 5 hours a day on actual work on the internet and a couple of hours on just messing around.
Ah, nice, nice. If you had to pick any character in a book, movie, or TV show, who is most similar to you?
Great question, man. I don't know. I mean, aspirationally, who would I like to be? I don't know. That's a tricky one because there's so many characters that you say, I'd like to be like the Jack Reacher character going around and helping the damsel in distress and beating up the bad guys. But then you look more into his life and go like he's always on the move. He doesn't own a house. He doesn't own a second set of clothes. Can't settle down or be with anyone for a long period of time. You go, well, maybe I just want to take a little bit of that and a little bit of someone else and a little bit of something else. I think I look at a lot of characters and say, yeah, I'd like to be like that, but not fully like that. Not all the way to the extreme, just a little balance. That's why we have so many different role models. I love my folks for teaching me how to analyze things and question the narrative and simplify complex situations and structures and meanings and help other people understand those. But there's some things about my folks I don't like. Sorry, Mum and Dad, if you're listening. And then you look at other people in books and TV and things like that and say, oh, that'd be really cool to be just like that. But I'm not sure I'd want to be like that all the time. I want to be able to take off the mask sometimes and hang up the Batman suit and just go home and chill out at a cocktail party like Bruce Wayne does.
Ah, yes. Me too. Do you prefer headphones or earbuds?
Definitely headphones. One of my friends said, oh, it's good that you wear headphones because you don't get the radiation into your head that causes the, insert QAnon conspiracy theory here.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm just paranoid about one of them dropping out because sometimes when I'm walking around, I might be listening on headphones while I'm hanging the clothes on the line or walking the puppies, and then suddenly the puppy jerks trying to run into traffic or something like that. I'm paranoid about dropping a headphone down a drain and then going, oh my God, there's $100.
No.
Yeah. So I'll just have the plain old wired headphones, which I'm using right now on my PC. And they're easily replaceable. You can get them anywhere. And if one falls out, you've still got the other one to save you. So I sound like I'm a bit clumsy, but there's a lot going on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Would you rather be really hot or really cold?
I think really hot. Yeah, that's why I went to Bali and lived in Bali for a couple of years. It's interesting because my partner is the opposite. She prefers the cold. She's actually flying off to New York tomorrow and going, oh, the weather's going to be so hot while I'm in New York. But she's got all the ski gear. She climbed Everest. She likes snowboarding and skiing and that sort of stuff. And she wants to go to France for the winter time and Christmas time and that sort of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'll just stay here. I really like the warm weather. I like getting out and, swimming and surfing and that sort of stuff. And yeah, spending a lot of time outside, whereas she's just sort of rugged up in 15 different layers. And yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I prefer the heat. She prefers the cold, but somehow we make the relationship work and we do go on holidays together. So there's a little bit of compromise.
Oh, yes. Just like my parents. What kind of music do you often listen to?
Great question. I've got very eclectic tastes in music. Like I'll listen to Kylie Minogue. I'll follow that up with like hard metal and that sort of stuff. I did go and see Guns N' Roses in concert with Nirvana and Skid Row and a whole bunch of sort of heavy stuff. But I'll also listen to pop music. I love music. I've got a very big playlist. Before Spotify came along, I actually had over 2,000 songs on my phone that I'd listen to when your phone was basically an MP3 player back then. And now in Spotify, I'll listen to a lot of stuff: rock, country, pop. Listen to some old classical music. Classical music is great for when you're working, just to have playing in the background because there's no distracting lyrics. Even the Hurrian hymn, which was written by the Phoenicians in about, 2000 BC or something like that. So yeah, I'll listen to anything musical.
Ah, very good. Nice. If you could get an exotic pet, what kind of companion would you like to have?
I'm just going to cover the ears of my two little Boston Terrier puppies so they can't hear this. I saw a picture of Salvador Dali walking an aardvark in Paris, and I mean he was a pretty out there kind of guy. That would be an interesting pet to get. A lot of people get like snakes and lizards and spiders and this sort of stuff. But yeah, something weird. What are those like giant guinea pigs that they have in South America? Like they're the size of dogs, just something warm and fluffy, but just a little bit different from a cat or a dog. Someone's got to write in the comments. It's whatever the name of the creature is. Don't you know that? Don't you know anything? It's like, yeah, I'm an investment guy. I don't know every species of every animal on the planet.
Yes, indeed. And that is all we have for this episode. It's great having you on, Jeremy, talking about your mutual crypto fund and the aspirations for the future and a lot of other stuff. It's been great.
Yeah, it's some of the strangest and most interesting questions I've ever been asked. So thank you for that. It made me think.
You're welcome. And
Thanks,
until next time, stay tuned for more.